Wake up, not the alarm clock kind of wake up. The kind of wake up that happens once, when you realize the rules you've been following were written by people who never wanted you to win. Somewhere in a quiet farmhouse outside Toledo, Spain, a man sits alone at a long wooden table. There's no music, no dramatic lighting. Just maps, red string, timelines, and a mind that has already lived through this exact moment 1,000 times in his head, long before it happened in real life. His name the world will come to know is Sergio Marquina, but you won't know him by that name. You'll know him as the Professor. And today, we're not just talking about a TV character. We're talking about a mindset, one that took 8 seasons, 4 heists, and 1 impossible plan to fully reveal. A mindset built on patience, precision, invisibility, and an unshakable belief that the system can be beaten, not with violence, but with thought. This is the story of how one man planned the impossible. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why "wake up" isn't just something he whispered to his team before every move. It's something he's whispering to you. Right now, before he became the Professor, Sergio Marquina was just a boy who watched his father die trying to rob a bank. A robbery that failed, not because the plan was bad, but because the world outside the plan was cruel and unpredictable. That single moment planted something in young Sergio that would take decades to grow into its final form. The belief that if you could control every variable, account for every possibility, and remove emotion from the equation, you could beat any system, no matter how powerful. He wasn't a criminal by nature. He was an economics professor, brilliant, awkward, socially anxious, more comfortable with numbers and probabilities than with people. He stuttered around women. He avoided eye contact. He was, by every visible measure, unthreatening, and that was exactly the point. The genius of Sergio Marquina was never in brute force. It was in being underestimated. While the world looked for a mastermind who looked the part, sharp suits, cold eyes, commanding presence, Sergio built his entire plan around the opposite: invisibility. He didn't need to look powerful. He needed to think powerfully while looking like nobody. This is lesson number 1, and it's one most people miss entirely. Your advantage doesn't have to be visible to be real. Here's what most people don't understand about the Royal Mint of Spain heist, or the Bank of Spain heist that followed it. The heist itself, the guns, the red jumpsuits, the hostages, the dolly masks, that was never the real plan. The real plan was 5 years in the making before a single mask was ever put on. Sergio didn't wake up one day and decide to rob a bank. He spent years studying the Mint's blueprints. He memorized shift changes of security guards. He learned the psychological profiles of hostage negotiators the police were likely to use. He didn't just plan for what would happen, he planned for what could happen, including outcomes he hoped would never occur. He built contingencies inside contingencies. When people asked him, "What if this goes wrong?" his answer was always the same: "It already has in my head 100 times, and I already know what we do next." This is the second lesson. Most people plan for success. The Professor planned for every version of failure first, and success became what was left over. Think about your own goals for a moment. Whether it's a career move, a business, a relationship, or a personal transformation, how many of the ways it could go wrong have you actually thought through? Not to scare yourself, but to prepare yourself. The Professor's power was never confidence in the plan working. It was confidence in his ability to adapt no matter what happened. That's a completely different kind of confidence, and it's the only kind that actually holds up under pressure. If there's one trait that defines Sergio Marquina above all others, it's patience, not passive waiting, but active, disciplined patience. The kind that requires enormous restraint. Throughout the series, there are moments where impulsive action would have been easier, faster, more emotionally satisfying. And every single time the Professor chooses the harder path: wait, observe, adjust, then act. When the police closed in, when hostages panicked, when his own team doubted him, he rarely reacted immediately. He absorbed the chaos, processed it silently, and then responded, often hours later, with a move that seemed impossible to predict because it wasn't reactive. It was calculated. This is lesson 4. The person who reacts fastest isn't the strongest. The person who reacts most precisely is. In a world that rewards speed, immediate responses, and instant reactions, on social media, in arguments, in business decisions. The professor's patience is almost rebellious. He proves, again and again, that slowing down your response doesn't mean losing control. It often means gaining it. It would be a mistake to think Sergio Marquina was some emotionless, calculating machine. He wasn't. He loved deeply his brother, his team, and eventually, Raquel Murillo, the very police inspector hunting him. What made him different wasn't the absence of emotion. It was his ability to compartmentalize it, to feel deeply in private and act with clarity in public. He grieved. He doubted. He feared failure more than anyone realized. But none of that ever leaked into his execution when it mattered most. This is lesson 6. You don't have to suppress your emotions to lead effectively. You have to learn when and where to feel them. This is one of the hardest lessons for anyone trying to build discipline in their life. The goal was never to become cold. The goal was to separate the moment of feeling from the moment of deciding, so that fear informs your caution, but never controls your action. Here's something crucial that separates the professor from a typical criminal mastermind. Money was never truly the point. Yes, they stole billions. Yes, the heist were about resources. But the deeper motivation, the one that gave the entire resistance its name and its soul, was a statement against a system Sergio believed had failed ordinary people. The 2008 financial crisis, the bailouts, the corruption, this was personal, not just profitable. This is the 7th and final lesson. The plans that survive the longest and inspire the most aren't built around what you'll gain, they're built around what you believe. Sergio Marquina didn't inspire an entire resistance movement because he was good at planning heists. He inspired people because his plan meant something larger than the money inside the vault. It represented a rejection of a broken system, a refusal to accept powerlessness, and a belief that ordinary, overlooked people could outthink the most powerful institutions in the world. So when we say, "Wake up, Sergio Marquina," what are we really asking? We're asking you to wake up to the idea that your biggest advantage isn't your strength, your looks, or your resources. It's your mind. It's your patience. It's your willingness to plan for failure before you celebrate success. It's your ability to build a team around shared purpose, not just shared paychecks. It's your discipline to control your reactions, even when everything around you is chaos. The professor never had superpowers. He had a plan refined over years, protected by patience and powered by purpose. And maybe that's the real reason this character has stayed with millions of people around the world, long after the final episode aired. Because deep down, everyone wants to believe that thought can beat force, that patience can outlast panic, that the quiet person at the back of the room, planning silently, might just be the one who changes everything. So wake up, not to rob a bank, not to wear a mask, but to start planning your next move as carefully as Sergio Marquina planned his. Because somewhere between his patience and his purpose lies a blueprint, not for a heist, but for a life lived with intention. If this video gave you a new way to see the professor, or a new way to see yourself, let us know in the comments. Subscribe for more deep dives into the minds behind your favorite characters. Until next time, stay patient, stay precise, and stay 10 steps ahead.